If you want to learn more about World War II in the Netherlands, perhaps the most iconic spot you can visit is the Maliebaan, located in the Dutch city of Utrecht, because here both the German occupier as well as their Dutch collaborators and the Dutch resistance were located. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to History Hustle, and if you happen to be new, my name is Stefan. I'm hustling history for you. I'm a Dutch history teacher and I'm now on location. So if you find this interesting, then please consider subscribing and also hit that notification bell. So first of all, what is the Maliebaan? The Maliebaan is a street located in the eastern side of the Dutch city of Utrecht. Its origins lay in the 17th century. Utrecht, with its old university, was considered a dull town. French-born philosopher René Descartes complained about it, and the authorities believed change was needed. And thus, an area was created to play jeu de maille, mallet game, or in Dutch, Mali. A mallet track, in Dutch, Malibaan, of around 750 meters was created. French King Louis XIV visited Utrecht in 1672 and was delighted. Over the course of the century, the game lost its popularity. Later, it was used for horse running, and in 1885, the first Dutch bicycle path was laid here. So let's talk about the NSB, the Nationaal-Socialistische Movement, Nationaal-Socialistische Beweging. Utrecht was seen as the NSB capital before and during the Second World War. The NSB was founded near the end of 1931 by Anton Mussert and Cornelis van Geelkerke. This happened in the Dutch city of Utrecht, and that is where I live. The NSB didn't see itself as a party, but as a movement. The NSB was nationalist and wanted a corporate state. They were anti-democratic and thus wanted to refrain from Den Haag, or The Hague, where the democratic government was seated. If you want to know more about the NSB ideology and its pre-war years, click the suggested video in the top right corner. The NSB also established a paramilitary arm, the Weerbaarheidsafdeling, and a youth movement called the Jeugdstorm. Initially, they weren't anti-Semitic and modeled themselves on the Italian fascist movement, but with Hitler's rise to power in Germany, they became more anti-Semitic. In 1933, its membership base started to grow. During the provincial elections of 1935, the NSB achieved 7.9% of the votes, and it sure was an achievement looking at how compartmentalized Dutch society was. And that aspect led to the downfall of the party. Due to this and due to other reasons such as its ideological vagueness, its alienation from society at large because of its militaristic traits, the NSB never achieved a big role in pre-war politics. As membership dwindled, the NSB party therefore became more and more of a cult. And in 1937, the NSB established its headquarters on the Maliebaan in Utrecht. In that building, Maliebaan number 35. And when the Germans had successfully invaded the Netherlands, both the NSB and the German occupier, they confiscated more buildings on this street to establish their rule. Let's take a look at the other NSB buildings. On number 25, there was the Nsb Finance Department, and on number 27, there was the Membership Administration. On number 2931, there was the Propaganda Department, and on number 41, the Formation Department. The Training Department of the NSB was located in this building. This section was concerned with political education of NSB members by organizing courses and other meetings designed to induct the members fully to the National Socialist principles. On number 76 and 78, there was the Weerbaarheidsafdeling, the WA, or Resilience Department. This Dutch variant of the German SA originated from 1932, but was outlawed by the Dutch government in 1936. Before that, Anton Mussert abolished this arm. After the German occupation started, the organization sprang up again. In October 1941, 650 WA men were dispatched to the Eastern Front and fought in the Dutch Volunteer Legion. On number 90 was the Nederlandse Volksdienst, the Dutch People's Service, which was a failed attempt to provide aid for the Dutch people in need in order to Nazify Dutch society. So what about the German buildings? On number 10 was the Ordnungspolizei. The Ordnungspolizei took office here in May 1940 after the German conquest of the Netherlands, and it was the German police which was generally used in raids and large actions. The officers were called the Grüne Polizei after the color of their uniform. They played a role in a big raid in Utrecht on October 7, 1944. On number 14 was the Dutch Labour Front, Nederlandse Arbeidsfront. In 1942, the provincial office of the Dutch Labour Front was established here. In April of that year, this Labour Front was established as the only permitted trade union into which the existing unions should merge. Nowhere was the new organization a success. At most, this happened in the agricultural sector. The other unions made sure that their members refused to join the unified new union. Number 37-39 was the German SD, the Sicherheitsdienst, the security service, the intelligence agency of Nazi Germany. On number 55, there was a representation of the German Nazi Party. The large building where a number of doctors practiced until 1942. Then the district leader of the NSDAP settled here. It was a regional administration of the German Nazi Party which was represented in all occupied territories. Number 66, the Dutch SS, later the Germanic SS. This was basically the main competitor of the NSB, which was led by Musser's rival, Henk Veldmayer. Because yes, the Dutch collaborators definitely were not on the same page. More on this later. Number 74, the Sicherheitspolizei, or the SIPO, which was the security police. In January 1945, 2 resistance members were executed here in the backyard. On number 84A was the Wehrmacht and later the Landwacht. An office of the German Wehrmacht was located here. From 1943, the staff of the Landwacht came here. That was a kind of auxiliary police that came under the NSB. In the last year of the war, many men were conscripted into the Landwacht, especially for security services. Later, this formation became the Landsturm. In that period, the men became very notorious for their brutal behavior. And on number 108 was the Luftwaffe Information Service. This building housed the German military office, the Luftwaffe Information Center. The German Air Force had dozens of these offices in Germany and in all occupied territories. On May 19, 1942, SS Chief Heinrich Himmler visited the Netherlands, and he also came to the Maliban. On images it can be seen that he arrives in front of this building, is greeted by Dutch SS collaborator Henk Veldmayer, then he inspects some WA troops and he walks in. Later he walks out smiling, gets on his coat and steps into his car and drives off. What was his business here? What was one of the most powerful men of the Third Reich doing here on the Maliban? The official reason was that he had to swear in some Dutch SS troops. But was this really the main reason why he was here? Most likely not. The real reason why he was here most likely was to make sure that the Dutch Jews were deported. Earlier in January 1942, the Nazi leaders had decided to carry out the final solution. And Himmler, a precise man as he was, he wanted to make sure that this was in good hands. So that's why he came to the Maliban. Perhaps the most remarkable fact is that not only the Dutch collaborators and the German occupier were located here, but also the Dutch resistance. The strategy of hiding in plain sight seemed to work. Number 53. There used to be a church here called the Oosterkerk, Easter Church, which was demolished in the 1980s to make way for the building you see now. From 1943, it became a meeting place for the Dutch resistance movement called Group Albrecht. Their goal was to build a network to collect information about military and economic activities of the Germans in the Netherlands. In the end, it became one of the most successful espionage projects in the entire occupation time. Number 40 was the Archbishop's Palace of Utrecht. Archbishop Johannes de Jong stated that Catholics weren't allowed to be an NSB member. This was stated before the war, but what was unique is that de Jong repeated his stance during the war. Number 71 is also interesting. Here was the Grund Garage, a car company annex garage. It had a gas station outside the door where, as long as gasoline was available, cars from German authorities had their tank filled. For some time, the resistance magazine Vrij Nederland, Free Netherlands, was printed in the basement of this building. And in 107, here were persons in hiding. Jewish violin player Boris Lenski and his wife hid here. His wife gave birth to a baby boy while being in hiding. They both survived the war. A part of this, there was also the head of the Utrecht University, as well as a pastor and well-known businessmen and entrepreneurs who all had their stories. There was also the Children Committee that hid Jews. And there are many more stories to be told. So, therefore, I want to thank you for watching, and do not forget to subscribe. And if you want to know more about World War II in the Netherlands, you can click right here. Thank you so much for watching. I already said that, and see you later.